Heather Shepard. Welcome back for the third time on the Quantum Health Connection podcast. We're so excited to chat with you today about all kinds of fun stuff we were just mulling over before we hit record. So, yeah, let's do it.
I'm stoked, you guys. My two of my favorite people.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've been doing a deep dive into PUFAs lately, and you've had some kind of revelations with your own health process. You've made some big shifts. So we're excited to hear all about it, how you have embraced maybe some new changes in your way of nourishing yourself. So where are you at with all that right now?
Oh my gosh. Where do we want to start? Let's start with the PUFAs. So most people know that I live on a farm currently in New Mexico, and we have chickens and cows and you know, sometimes pigs, and we raise a lot of our own food, but our cows are dairy cows right now. But when we got our birds, I was like, well, you just buy the feed. You just go and I just buy organic chicken feed and okay. And I give it, I'm buying it and I'm looking at the ingredients and I'm like, soy, corn, flax. And I'm like, huh. Well, I
Mhm.
guess this is what you feed your birds. And, for a while we were feeding them that. And I was like, this is not right. This isn't what a bird is supposed to eat. Um, and and so that took me on this deep dive into PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, which corn, soy, flax, we commonly know them as all the seed oils. And I was like, "Oh, girls, you're not getting that anymore. We're not doing this. We're not doing this because um it's then we eat your eggs and then the PUFAs are in the eggs and so that just kind of started me on this whole journey of PUFAs and how they affect health and how they affect blood sugar and thyroid and estrogen and you know birds chickens are we have like this misconception because we've been so disconnected from farming that we see pasture raised and we think a bird can just be raised on grass. It's absolutely impossible. A chicken cannot survive on grass alone. It's not a ruminant like a cow, a goat, a sheep, etc. They're ruminants. They can survive on grass alone. Monogastric animals like chickens and pigs, they actually can't. They need other feed inputs in order to thrive. And so this is like a whole thing because you go into the store and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy some pastured eggs. And you think that you're buying pastured, like eggs from chickens raised on grass, and they may have been fed grass. But about 80% of their diet needs to be other feed inputs, which is the majority of their diet.
Mhm.
So by having chickens, I've like learned all this stuff about what do they actually need? What do these animals need to thrive? Oh, they actually can't just survive on grass alone. And most of the feed today, like 99% of the feed out there that you feed pigs and chickens is like heaped with PUFAs because they're cheap, they're affordable. Even if they're organic, it's still a PUFA. If it's not organic, it's subsidized in GMO. So it like took me on this whole deep dive into the land of PUFAs.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And it's so true that when you go to the food store and you think you're buying like the healthy, expensive eggs that are pasture raised.
Yes.
And I learned this back, I think it was like 2022 when I got into the carnivore diet and I wanted to add eggs back in. I was like, oh, I gotta eat a low, like, I don't want a chicken that's fed corn and soy because whatever
Yeah.
in their fat is then going to be in you, right? So we are what we eat in a lot of ways. So we have to like pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So any like chicken, turkey, eggs, all these things like that, you want to make sure they're not fed corn and soy. But the eggs that I buy from my local farm, when I buy them in bulk, are actually cheaper and not fed corn and soy than the ones at the food store that are the supposed healthy brand.
Yeah.
So, it's very interesting. We just have to like, it's more, there is an inconvenience, I guess, for some people that they can't just probably buy their eggs from the food store because I don't think there's a food store brand egg that is not fed corn and soy or chicken or pork or
Yeah.
turkey. I don't know of it. If there is, that would be great. I just don't know that that's a thing. So you will likely, if you want to avoid PUFAs, you will likely have to go outside of the food store and go to a local farm to get these items.
Which you should, because
Yeah.
the grocery store is the biggest capitalistic health scam in the entire, like, scam in the whole planet. But
Yeah.
aside from that, if you're like, well, how much PUFAs does an egg really have? Okay. Like, and so I started to look at this. And, the trusted pastured egg brand, like if you go in the store, is Vital Farms eggs. Okay. Right. Two of their eggs is equivalent to a tablespoon of canola oil with regard to the PUFAs. So
Wow.
it's like, think of
Insane.
that's a lot. And it's because of the if you go on their site, they list everything they feed their birds, and soy is like at the top of the list. And they think, "Oh, well, this is good because it provides them protein," and it does, and that's why everybody feeds their animals, because it's a cheap source of protein.
Mhm.
But what we're not seeing is that it's highly estrogenic and it's really high in PUFAs, and it has a major impact on health. And that's just a chicken. So I've created my whole I make homemade chicken food for our birds now, low PUFA, and it's been a whole thing because, and not when I changed their feed, they also started laying a lot more eggs when I took the PUFAs out.
They're
They
healthier. Their
they're
hormones are working better.
healthier. They're strong. I'm putting like beef tallow and coconut oil in their feed.
Perfect.
No, it's like such a dramatic difference for them too. Um, so if you're like, well, this can't be that many PUFAs, two eggs about a table, and that's in the good quality, like
Yeah.
pastured egg.
Forget it if you buy the high quality.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really a thing because most people are aware of PUFAs to some extent today that,
Well,
they're
let's just mention it in case they don't know what PUFAs
okay,
are and where they
great.
can find them. Maybe somebody's a new listener that never heard of a PUFA before, and they're like, "Wait, what's a PUFA? And how do I avoid it?" So maybe let's just add that.
All right, that's a good place to start. So PUFAs are the main source are seed oils. We have corn, canola, soy, safflower, sunflower, literally any liquid oil, besides olive oil, is going to contain a high amount of PUFAs versus like butters. Everything has PUFAs in it, just to say. Like, you can't find a food without it. It's not about avoidance. It's about reducing our intake because we've created imbalance. And so we have it in those forms. Like, butter's only 3% PUFAs, and I think coconut oil is about the same. And
The
then,
rest would
like,
be saturated fat.
yes, the rest is saturated fat, exactly.
Mhm.
So these are the main source of PUFAs. We also have soy and flax. And then we have all these like healthy things that people put in their smoothies, like hemp and flax and chia seeds. They're fucking heaped with PUFAs. Literally, those things should be used to make clothing and like linens, and we shouldn't be eating them. That's what their original purpose was. And
Mm.
soy's original purpose was a paint thinner. And then they're like, oh, well, we have petroleum now, so we can just make petroleum-based paint. Now we have all this excess soy. What should we do with it? Well,
Well,
let's
just
just feed
eat
it
it.
to our animals, and that's literally how the transition happened.
Mhm.
So a lot of these things weren't originally foods. They were for industrial products and linens
Same
and
with Crisco. It started off for some other industrial purpose, and then they snuck it into the
Mm.
food supply. Took a lot of
Yes.
work and a lot of advertising, a lot of hoodwinking, but they did it.
I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, it's like it's good marketing, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's
Yep.
good. It's good marketing, but those are some of the most common sources of PUFAs. And I'm gonna throw in something that's gonna be highly controversial, but also fatty fish are extremely high in PUFAs, like salmon and mackerel and sardines and these sort of things. And so we can talk about that if
That's interesting too. I like that you brought that in. But I think it's important for the listeners to know, like, okay, so most of us are eating most people who are not health conscious right?
Yeah.
Who are not thinking about the health. They're eating a very high PUFA diet, right? Because it's in
Very
all
high.
the products, right? It's literally, if you go out to eat, you literally can't avoid it. If you buy
Cannot.
anything in a packaged processed food, you're not avoiding it. Like you're getting a PUFA. Everything, a box of cereal has a PUFA, like whatever, a granola bar, it has PUFAs. Anything you eat that comes in a package or a box, right? But then also it comes from the animal products, right? Because they're
Yeah.
not fed, they're fed corn and soy. So there's another source, right? But I also think it's important because we can swing completely the other way. And I think that there is some value in having linoleic acid in the diet in some small amounts, right? Because it is an important essential, it is an essential fatty acid, right? So we don't
Yeah.
want to swing to one end of the pendulum where we completely remove PUFAs like 100% out of the diet. Like we want to have some. So it's really about creating a balance between these things.
Yep.
And most people really have a way high PUFA diet. It needs to come down. But you can swing it. Like I know I swung it the other way. I literally probably had a zero PUFA diet, like not zero, but very minimal for a very long time with just eating, say corn and soy-free eggs, nothing, everything from a farm, nothing comes from a package or a box, right? Everything is whole food. That would be an extremely low PUFA diet, but you also do need some linoleic acid in your diet. So we do want to talk about good quality sources, right? Because it's about balance and not fear mongering, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the body does need some, it's considered an essential fatty acid, meaning the body can't make it on its own. So we need
Right.
some from our dietary inputs. But the amount we're getting is highly imbalanced with the amount we actually need, which is really very little. And it's literally found in almost every single food to some extent, and which tells us that the body does need it because nature wouldn't create it if we didn't need it. So, but just as you're mentioning, Vanessa, it's literally you go into a health food store even, you pick up some dried raisins and there's fucking safflower oil on
Oh,
them.
absolutely. Every time. Yep.
Like what can I just buy a freaking organic raisin with just plain
No, I was
no,
trying to look for
no,
organic dried cranberries, and it was like
no,
everyone had sunflower, safflower in
sunflower
them. I'm
oil.
like,
Yeah,
why? Why? I just don't
exactly.
understand. Like, why can't I just have dried
And
cranberries?
no, and they do that to nuts. They literally put it in everything because they've created such an excess that they're like, well, what do we do with this? Oh, we'll use it on this and that. And then
Mhm.
this is, and when you go out to eat, you can absolutely, it's very hard to avoid PUFAs. You have to be very aware, because it's
Mhm.
a place you can go and get a high overload. And
Yeah.
I think knowing how to detox them and like balance them out also if you do, like nobody's not going to go out to eat ever, right? So then, understanding how to work with that, it can be really important.
I
It's
think
such a good
detoxing is a
point.
good thing because I don't think we've ever talked about that on here, and you don't hear much about it. But first, I want to go back to the fish thing because I just can't stop thinking
Hmm.
about it. So, what about all the DHA? Come on, Heather. No, that's EPA or whatever is in there. I don't know. So, what about
Okay.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point.
So
Mhm.
when I eat PUFAs, I will usually get it from some sort of fatty fish. Okay.
Mhm.
Usually that's like my PUFA of choice or whatever. But
Mhm.
when we look at nature, animals who eat a lot of PUFAs do so typically before hibernation, like a squirrel,
Yeah.
like a bear, nuts, and they'll go around and they literally eat everything, and they eat the PUFAs,
To
and then
gain
they
weight.
they put on weight.
Hmm.
And so when we look at like, let's just take the Inuit as an example because of all the fatty fish there.
Hmm.
And so what do they have to eat in the winter? They literally have nothing. So there's literally nothing. And so
Yeah.
they gorge themselves on fatty fish, just like the squirrel and the bear, in order to make it through the winter months. Now, people living more southerly don't have fatty fish. And this is the reason because they have vitamin D, they don't have these harsh winters, they have more of a food source. They don't need that survival mechanism of the PUFAs.
Right.
PUFA is seen as an obesogenic. It's literally meaning like if you eat enough, you will gain weight. It is one of the number one ways to gain weight. And a lot of people say, oh, sugar is the reason why people gain weight.
Mm.
Honestly, I think that's complete BS. The reason people gain weight is they're eating too many PUFAs.
Mm.
And we can see this in nature from the squirrel, the bear, the Inuits during the winter, and how their bodies, what's
Mm.
available to them and what they need, because they couldn't survive a winter without putting on the weight, make slowing their metabolism down, which is what PUFAs do. But the Inuits have another, like they had a lot of seal blubber and other major sources of vitamin E and D to offset the PUFA overload. But still, we don't see these foods in warmer areas. And the reason is there's just a different.
So what you're saying is if you live in Florida, maybe the wild caught salmon is not the right option. Is that-
I'd probably say it's probably not your best
You're
option.
better with like a more of like a white fish, right? Like that's not as fatty.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, better
Hmm.
with a leaner fish.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But if you like in the winter, for me,
Yes.
salmon would make sense.
It would, especially if you were restricting other foods.
Yes, true. Good
I
point.
wouldn't combine PUFAs with like sugar. That's a good way to gain weight.
Yes, it is. Yes, high fat and high sugar diet, you will probably
Now
gain weight.
that's how you gain weight. Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
recipe. That's what,
Exactly.
yeah, a hundred
Exactly.
percent. Yes,
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Well, so how do we avoid PUFAs and how do we detox PUFAs? Those are the next two questions.
Okay. So I think being aware of where you're getting your food and what the farmer is feeding their animals
Hmm.
is really important, especially chickens and pigs. Okay. The ruminants, I know this for cows anyway, their ruminant has the ability the bacteria in there can negate the effects of PUFAs.
Yes.
So, unless a cow is being fed like so much corn and soy that it's in acidosis and getting sick, which happens in the feedlot,
Yeah.
okay? But if you say the cow is just grain finished, that's probably not going to be a big deal, right? Versus a pig or a chicken, they're going to have the highest PUFA inputs because that's the feed the most farmers feed their animals. So I would look for maybe like a low PUFA. At least like corn isn't actually as big of a deal. Cracked corn, our ancestors used that, it was much more
Mhm.
available. The soy, the flax, the vegetable oils they're putting into the feed, that is much more of a bigger issue than corn. So I'd
Hmm.
at least look for soy-free, flax-free chicken, eggs, pork if you can. And you're likely going to have to find a farmer because most stuff in the grocery store
I've
that's
never
how
seen
they,
that.
yeah, it's like it's virtually impossible because it costs more money to feed your animals these a low PUFA diet. And unfortunately, that's just how our food system is designed.
Well, it's all about maximizing profits, so they're going to use the
Totally.
cheapest thing that they can get. But what I want to know what you feed your chickens.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I feed them wheat berries.
Mm.
Hard
Mm.
wheat berries. I feed them split peas. I feed them sometimes lentils, and this is all mixed together and soaked. I feed them beef tallow and coconut oil and barley and alfalfa. And
So
then
they also eat what's on the ground too, right?
oh
Bugs and
yeah, they
worms
eat
and
what's on the ground. They eat
yeah.
alfalfa. They eat worms.
Yeah.
I buy them dried worms.
Hmm.
They eat a lot of calcium, which also is one of the,
Shells,
yes, yes,
eggshells.
eggshells and oyster shells.
Yeah.
And that's literally the majority of their diet. And then they get like if we have leftover vegetables from dinner or something, they'll
Right.
get.
Leftover vegetables or fruit or things like that. They can peck at it or
You
things like
ever
that.
feed them like protein and meat or something like that?
Yes. So I will feed them.
They're not
I
omnivore. They're omnivores.
no.
They're not,
Yes.
they're not, they're not like when you see the plant based or like I think it will say that, right? Doesn't that I've seen that marketing before.
Vegetarian fed
Yeah,
chicken.
thank you. Vegetarian fed chicken. I'm like, but they're not. They're not supposed to be
That's
vegetarian. They're
that's
omnivores.
absolutely impossible. That bird would keel over and die,
Yes, yes.
or would take about 5 years to get big enough to eat as a fryer, and if you fed it like that. Um, so that's why we give them worms. I'll feed them, like we have a lot of organ meats from the animals we've harvested on our
Hmm.
farm. I'll throw them organ meats.
Yeah,
I'll
perfect.
give them chicken, leftover food. If I have a piece of, sometimes I'll have like a big piece of pork that we haven't eaten from our pigs yet, and I'll just throw it out to them and they'll go ham on it. They,
Yeah,
they
they love
love
it.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Uh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. One day
Yeah.
I want to have ducks. I have this thing about having ducks for some reason over chickens. I don't know why that is. I love duck eggs, so whatever.
I mean, go for it. Just be prepared for poop.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a lot of food. Yeah.
What do you make
Right.
compost out of the poop? What do you do with all that poop?
Yes, yes. So we have several compost bins on our property, and we compost their poop. It's really high in
It's like
nitrogen.
low PUFA compost.
It's
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Mhm.
that's a whole thing. Yeah, yeah.
So now the question is, okay, so we're gonna lower it in our diet. We're not gonna eat processed and packaged foods. Most people following the show, I'm sure already know that, right? We're gonna try to eat local and seasonal. We're gonna try to eat, whole real food. We're going
Yes.
to buy from a local farmer, right? So that would all be some ways to lower our PUFA intake, right?
Hmm.
Is that enough? How long do they live in the cells? Because I've heard they live
No.
in your cells for like forever, and they're very hard to remove. So how do we change that fatty acid profile in within ourselves? How do we fix that?
So in a chicken, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to remove PUFAs from their cells.
Okay.
In a pig, it takes about 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
In a human, it takes about 2 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a while.
And is it
So
just not eating? Is it just avoiding, or are there other
it's
things we
not,
need to do?
there are other things we need to do, and I have a PUFA detox on my site, which I walk people through. But
Mhm.
I will say the number one thing to do is literally, if we look throughout history, our fatty acid profile, the human fatty acid profile, used to be much more saturated, our tissues, our fats. And since we introduced the PUFAs, not only our fatty acid composition, but the animals eating them as well is much less saturated. So literally, we've been unsaturating our tissues since like the early 1900s. And this is changing our DNA, our genetics, our metabolic expression, and it's changing the health and well-being of our animals. So the very first best step you can take is reduce like any liquid vegetable oil in your pantry.
Except for olive oil, right?
No, olive oil is like, it's actually a big key to recovering also and detoxing, but
It's a good source, by the way, not from the food store likely. You gave me a great
yeah,
source, which I really did love their olive oil. It is so good, by the
good.
way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like take those oils out and start eating more saturated fats.
Mhm.
That's like a good first step, just so you'll start changing the your tissue complex.
Mhm.
Um, that's a really good place to start because we know when the tissues are more predominant in PUFAs, we build estrogen, create estrogen dominance, we gain weight easier, and PUFAs block the thyroid from releasing its hormones. So you were literally, they figured this out with pigs. They started feeding them like heavy soy, and they're like, wait a minute, they gained weight so quickly.
Which is what they want. That's
Yeah.
great for them.
And this is how it all started. Whoa, they gained weight so quick because their thyroid shut down. And so they just got super fat, super quick. And that's exactly what happens to us as well.
Hmm. Well, think about it. When you look at people back, in the day, right? Like you look at people and they have those pictures on the beach in the sunlight and they're all already stand, right? And now
Yeah.
you look at a picture on the beach today in today's age, now it's not the same picture. The human being looks very different. And
Very
our it's a lot of things that have shifted in our lifestyles, the amount of medications we use, the amount of the lighting environment, right? But certainly the PUFA profile has gone way, way up. So
way up.
that makes a lot of sense as well. So I
Yeah.
had a question, it went out of my head, but it'll come back to me. Right, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was something about what you said about the PUFAs and the thyroid. Well, tell us about how it affects the thyroid.
What did you notice about your own experience that led you
Good
to
question.
shifting all the things for you, like about your own health journey here?
Well, with regard to PUFAs, so when I had kept seed oils out of my diet for a long time, and
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about.
I was like,
I haven't got it again.
I was like, this is we're doing good. This is low seed oils. We're doing great. But then I realized inputs from pigs, inputs from chickens, but also nuts and seeds. And a lot of people are really into nuts and seeds and chia and flax and these sort of things. But I also ate a lot of fatty fish because of, they do have these components, DHA and so forth. And I think that that can be of benefit, but I also think, especially, I don't live in a climate where I need that. We have so much vitamin D here. I don't, that's not a necessary part of my diet. And in
Mm,
fact, I noticed that I was getting a lot of PUFA inputs from fatty fish.
hmm.
And so when I started to shift that, I noticed a big difference, and it was really, well, I'm not going to share that, it'll scare people, but once you start to take these things out, what I'll say about that is if you do have more than you should, your body will feel it, like you'll be like, what just happened? You'll feel like you have the chills, the flu, totally fatigued, because your thyroid will respond immediately. It'll like immediately
Mm.
be suppressed. So,
So
um,
it's a good thing.
yeah, it's a good thing. It's very good. It's really good.
Mhm.
It's really good. And I think our like diabetes, our thyroids, our weight stuff, this is one of the first places I'd look in the diet. Of course, there's so many factors, but this is a really big hidden place that I don't think many people are talking about, like in a great to an extent that it really needs to be talked about
Mhm.
now.
I remembered what I wanted to ask you about avocado oil because people will say avocado oil is
Oh,
healthy, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And a lot of these health promoting products, right? If you're going to buy, they'll have avocado oil instead.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, if it's heated like that, it's probably not healthy for you, number one. But what are your thoughts on avocado oil?
No, you see, you're right. It's because there's so many things. Think about an avocado and how
Hmm.
to turn that thing into oil and what it would require in order to do that. There's a lot of heat, a lot of processing. It's a monounsaturated fat. So technically, it's lower in PUFAs, right?
Yeah.
However, the rancidity is high just due to the processing. If you really want avocado oil, take an avocado and you try making the oil yourself and let me know how it goes.
I think I'm going to pass.
And then you like that.
That's a
There's
good point, Heather, because my general rule of thumb to get it into people's heads is like if you can make it, it's probably okay to eat. If you
yes,
Yeah.
cannot make it, I would not eat it.
Yeah, that's a
yes.
great, simple, so simple, right?
So simple. But that's a good one. That's exactly, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many other better choices that the amount of avocado oil that's available also is really a red flag of their overproducing avocados. It takes a lot of water to grow an avocado tree. And
Mm,
these are grown in areas, especially California avocados, they don't have any water.
mm.
And so we're overproducing this food that we should be eating. I think it can be a good part of the diet, but when we
Yeah.
turn it into an oil, then we create several problems from the environment to rancidity and to,
And they're likely cut with other oils too, is my thought on the
absolutely,
process. I
absolutely.
mean, you think you're
Yeah,
getting avocado oil, but like it's
yes.
probably got other processed PUFA oils in there as well. And
Yeah.
it's tough because people think they go to their food store and they're buying something healthy when they buy, the potato chips that are fried
Like,
I'm sorry, in avocado oil instead, or even olive oil, which shouldn't be heated to that degree at
no,
all. Like
no.
so I mean I think olive oil can be very healthy in the diet, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
heated like that to that high temperature for frying. And
Yeah.
then there's also, people think, oh, I got the avocado mayo, so that's healthier and this and that. I'm like, but actually it's probably not healthier for you. Like.
If
So,
you try to make your own mayo
hmm
and you look at what it looks like, if you make your own mayo with like olive oil, and then
hmm
you go and get a bottle of like a jar of the avocado mayo,
hmm
the avocado mayo looks fake. It looks literally like what is that thing? The whip, Miracle Whip. It looks like Miracle Whip
hmm
versus your homemade mayo. You're like, but we're trained to think that wait, the homemade mayo, that doesn't look like mayo, but that's mayo.
That's what mayo really is supposed to
That
look like,
that's
right?
what
We
it's
just we've
supposed to
been
look
so
like.
messed up. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, that's
Yeah.
like when my kids used to eat like really processed foods like back in the day, a long time ago, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Why the yellow cheese? Like we used to get yellow. Why is it white?" I'm like, "Well, that's what it should be." It was
Yeah.
just that was the yellow was incorrect. Like they were like, "This is not cheese." Like they still argue with me about it. I'm like, "No, no,
Yeah.
that's not cheese. You just didn't know what real cheese was."
Oh my gosh. I know. It's a whole cheese is another whole thing, but yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, how much time you guys got? What
Yeah, well, cheese
What
is like
what's
it's
the
really
oils that
hard.
you're eating now? What kind of oils are you prioritizing now?
The main oils in my diet, or I should say fats, are butter, ghee, and olive oil. Really good olive oil. That's it.
No tallow.
No tallow or lard?
I'm okay with tallow. I'm okay with lard. I just prefer the other flavors better.
Yeah, I love ghee. There's something about ghee that's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I love butter too, and I love olive oil as well. They're all good. That's pretty much mostly what I use as well. I use a lot of butter. We use a lot of butter, but then butter's another conversation because like when you said about foods going out to eat, right? So my
Yeah.
mom and they know about seed oils and stuff. She'll say, "Well, I'll tell them to cook it in butter." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true, but what is that butter actually made out of?" is the question because the butter you buy from the food store, first of all, if you turn it over and you look at it, you're going to see seed oils in it
It's
likely.
like a white color too. It looks like this, you
Yeah,
know?
it's the wrong color. It's not yellow. Yeah, it's again, it's back to the color conversation. But honestly, a lot of times the butter will have other seed oils in it already.
Yeah.
And even if you buy the grass-fed ones, right? What was it? You're still messing with GMOs possibly. You're still messing with a lot of things. So again, butter's another item that you can make yourself from, grass-fed cream, or you could get from a local farm. I would recommend. It's a tough one because it's not all the same. It just,
Yeah. It's not all the same. And I really don't have many issues with like the Irish butter, Kerrygold, etc. But I like to try to shop within our at least our country or when
yes.
possible just to save on literally the fossil fuels to get that butter from there to point A to point B. But also, Vital Farms butter is Irish butter. It says made in Ireland on the frickin' back of the package. And people are buying that and they're like, oh, I'm buying butter from Vital Farms. No, you're not. You're buying it from Ireland. And that's not necessarily bad. Ireland probably has amazing butter. They have all their grass and greenery and so forth. But nobody has any idea where their food's coming from, you
No.
know? And dairy fat is a big source of fat in my diet also. I mean, cream. I literally, calcium, I think, is probably the most, if we say the most excessive nutrient in the diet, it's probably PUFAs and meat for the carnivore crew.
hmm
And then the most efficient is very likely calcium. And so
You say
I'm a
deficient? Calcium's deficient in
deficient,
the.
sorry, deficient. And
Mm-hmm.
I am a very huge proponent of a high calcium diet.
Mm.
I don't think people are eating near enough calcium, which is why I continue to accumulate dairy animals
Have a
because it
nice
can be
collection.
it's
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 very
Collection.
expensive.
it's expensive, but it's literally, I think, a huge missing component
Okay,
of
so
our
let's
diet.
walk us through a why calcium is so important in the diet to have. So why should we be eating dairy products? And then also, what would like a healthy amount of dairy in the day look like? Now I'm curious.
Oh man. Okay. So dairy, hang on, my screen went away for some reason. There you go. So dairy, and we're talking about like good stuff.
Right. Again,
Grass
not likely at your food store.
Not
Okay.
likely.
Not
Not
like,
likely. But let's say you don't know a farmer with a cow or a goat or a sheep, then go to your store and get a grass-fed, dairy products.
okay.
It's going to be better than not eating them at all.
Okay.
So, um, I really encourage people and I teach them on my wild fed course. 50% of your protein should come from lean fish or meat or shellfish,
Hmm.
50% from dairy, half and half. And if
Mm-hmm.
and people, especially women, because of calcium's impact on the thyroid, the bones, energy production, it's literally the most abundant mineral in our body.
Hmm.
And it's the lowest mineral we get, or it's pretty low, it's pretty deficient in our diets, and you cannot absorb it in the pill form.
I was just going to ask you, what if I'll just take a calcium supplement? What would you say?
I would say if somebody can't eat dairy, if they truly legitly are sensitive to dairy, which most people can find something. They can find either from a goat, a sheep, a water buff. There's something usually people can find that works for them.
Mm.
But if they really can't, to take a whole food source like eggshells and crushed up eggshells. It's because it's calcium carbonate. We know that as calc carb.
Yeah.
It's the body's most absorbable form of calcium, but just like any mineral, if we take it in an abundance in a whole form like that, it can be very and if you don't have enough stomach acid, it can be very hard on the stomach. So I
Hmm.
would take it in small doses throughout the day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And aim high with your calcium. I mean, 2000 milligrams would be good.
That's a lot of calcium. Okay.
It's a lot of calcium. Like
Drink some
how many,
more milk out of my fridge.
a lot of
Fabulous.
in a lot of cultures just naturally thrive on dairy also. And they it's meant to be soured, because of its
Mhm.
storage. It doesn't store well. It just stores well because we've invented refrigerators.
Yeah.
And so really it's also meant like of course drink milk, but it's also meant to be fermented, soured into cheese, yogurt, kefir, clabber, which then you get all of the gut benefits as well and the beneficial bacteria, and it's
Hmm.
already pre-digested.
Yeah.
So like the original superfoods, really.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like the amount of dairy for breakfast, I'll have like a pint or two of yogurt with other things, but I mean, and then throughout the day, I'll have cheese and um, goat cottage cheese and kefir and like
But
and
a
I
lot of
try,
people think, oh, I'm going to get fat if I eat that much dairy.
I know
Hmm.
it's such a misconception, but if
Yeah. I was
try
just thinking the same thing. Hmm.
try taking PUFAs out and try the majority of your carb sources being from fructose.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Because fructose doesn't stimulate insulin the way glucose does from like the complex carbs we've been told like regulate blood sugar as total horseshit.
Mm.
They have because they're glucose, they stimulate insulin. Insulin is like the key that opens the cells and the glucose
Yeah.
goes in. But
Hmm.
people who eat all these complex carbs, there's too much glucose. The cells, there's like, wait, there's no more cells for these to go into. So then you just store it as
Mm.
fat.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas fructose doesn't stimulate insulin in the same way because it's 50% fructose, 50% glucose. And fructose acts as insulin, opening the cells for glucose to go in without stimulating insulin.
Mm. Mm.
Low carb
Okay.
community is going to shit their pants with that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway,
it makes me think, okay, I don't have that availability in my season, like where I live in New York, right? There's no fruit toast really available. I mean, I will eat stewed apples and stewed pears throughout the winter because I'm like,
yeah,
okay, that's good. Like that's a good fruit source, but that's my only like fruit sources.
yeah,
Really, except for honey, I do eat some honey maple syrup throughout the winter as well. So it made me like think of that a little bit because I
yeah.
only have fruit available for like 6 months out of the year, like half the year, really.
Honey is mainly fructose.
Yes, I do eat honey. Yeah, I love honey and maple
But if
syrup.
we think of our ancestors, they literally think about jams, preserves, fruit.
Hmm.
They
Oh,
thought
I
of
just
ways.
made the best blueberry jam. It was so good. But that
They,
again, I was not preserved. It was just I made it recently because my father asked me to.
I mean, yeah. So I think it's a misconception that people didn't eat carbs during the winter. I
Hmm.
really think that's an absolute lie because they actually stored up a lot of preserves and fruits and they use this throughout the winter.
So
So
you're saying preserves of honey and maple syrup and maybe jams that they would have made and things like this and whatnot.
jams and fruits and
Mhm.
yeah, I think
Dried fruits. Yeah.
yes, dried
Mhm.
fruits exactly. And I think the whole just from personal experience on how low carb affected my thyroid and just focusing on seasonal, we focused on seasonal in a way that actually wasn't accurate because there was a lot of carbs available in the winter.
Hmm.
It just was in a different form than fresh fruit. So
Right.
it's really been a misconception in my experience that seasonal eating should be low in carb and there's no fruits and there's no
Mhm. Yeah.
sugars.
This is the first winter that I've actually eaten carbs because I was like, I felt the same way. I was like, I feel like I need more carbs. But like I said, I'm eating more apples, stewed pears, things like that. But then also a lot more things like oatmeal and things like that. And I posted oatmeal for breakfast one day and people were probably like, whoa, that was kind of crazy, probably. But I'm like, you know what? Like that's like sometimes I do that and I'll put it with like yogurt and things like that and like pears and whatever that are cooked. And it's so delicious and feels like so warm and nourishing and yummy. And I just love it. So.
As far
I
as
mean,
the
I guess that's more
thyroid, Heather,
complex, not fructose, but that's more complex. But I still find I don't know. I feel like I do okay with the complex, and my body likes
Everyone
it.
has to find their
Yeah,
what works for them.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so true. Were
yeah,
you gonna ask a question, Heather?
hmm
Go
so
ahead.
we have the low carb effect on the thyroid, and then you have the PUFA effect on the thyroid.
yeah.
So this is like a bad combination here. So tell us more about that, Heather.
Yeah, so high PUFA diet and low carb would probably be a way to really tank your thyroid.
It would be. There's some other ways like over exercise.
Yes, I've been there.
I think that's how mine started. If I just go and look back, over
Hmm.
exercise. A big stress, a shock, a trauma can shift
Oh yeah,
somebody into hypothyroidism. The most common way is after childbirth, after child labor.
yeah.
That's
Oh
when
yes. Yeah.
most women shift into hypothyroidism. So,
Mine wasn't after childbirth. Mine was after too much exercise and
yeah, yeah,
calorie cutting.
yeah. Calorie cutting, fasting. Fasting is
Hmm.
a guaranteed way to shut your thyroid off. A
Yeah, you're
guaranteed way.
slowing your metabolic rate. You're slowing your metabolism down. It's
That's
just,
right. That's right.
hmm
And so after like another message that the carnivore crowd is giving is to like go for long periods of fasting, especially at night. And guess what? Our liver glycogen stores are depleted during sleep.
hmm
So if you don't have a lot of carbs for dinner or before bed, you're going to wake up and then how many people have tachycardia, rapid heart rate as soon as they eat breakfast or when they wake up? Because they've depleted their liver glycogen stores from restricting carbs is one of the main ways. And
Yeah.
that is like, but anyway, so
So interesting
um,
when you say that, Heather, because I think where did dessert, how did that evolve or where did that happen? Maybe it was an intuitive thing, like we got to have dessert.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Part of my low carb recovery has been to eat either a smoothie, like a fruit smoothie before bed, or
Mm.
like a big bowl of berries with yogurt and honey. And the amount of carbs that we need is like if you've been low carb and you're like, oh, I've had a tablespoon of honey, try about a lot more than that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like we
Mhm.
need so much more. And when you're coming off of low carb, it's going to be a little bit of a mind fuck because you're like, wait, sugar feeds cancer and I'm going to gain weight and all this nonsense. It's like absolute nonsense. But
It's also hard too because you're still eating, like you might think, oh, I ate a lot of carbs, but because
yeah,
you're so used to eating low carbs, you're like, oh, I
yes,
ate a lot of carbs, but really in reality, like if you tracked it and you looked at it, you like really probably had like 50 or 70 grams, which you probably need more like on the upper of 150 to 200 at least.
at least.
No, at
Right.
least. So you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, I
Yeah.
actually didn't eat a lot of carbs. Like if you sometimes, I'm not a big fan of tracking really because I think there's some rigidity in that, of course, but sometimes it's needed for you to
Yeah.
actually see how little you're eating or how
Exactly.
little of something you're eating or how little fats you're eating or how little carbs you're eating. Like there
Yeah.
is a point to check in on that.
Yeah, like my nutrition clients, I will say like I'll give them a list of like this is how much protein is in these dairy foods and calcium. So you actually know like, oh my God, that's how much I need to eat. Whoa, I was way underdoing it, you know?
Yeah.
But when it came to the thyroid, there was uh, a, it, over a year ago, I was like to my wife, I was like, I think your thyroid's low. Like, let's just test it. And and the testing is like not the TSH testing at the in the lab. That is a horrific way to test your thyroid. It's highly ineffective and inaccurate. So we started doing basal metabolic temperature in the morning on waking, um, and tracking it as well as the pulse rate. And I was expecting hers to be, I'm like, you need some help here. Mine was like 10 times worse than hers. I was like, whoa. And that, like, literally, it sucked and it was so refreshing at the same time because I
Yeah.
was like, this is the problem. A pulse rate of 63, I'm literally, my blood is not circulating. My metabolism is so slow. My temperature is 96.4 degrees on waking. There's no heat in my body. There's no heat production. There's
That
no
always makes me think
metabolism.
back to when you told us when we asked. I remember this question during the homeopathic course. Somebody said, "Was it better to be more cold or better to be more warm?" Like, and you were like warm because then your
Yes.
metabolism is working better, right?
Yeah.
So that was like that stuck in my brain, and it made me think back to when during COVID era, right? Everywhere you go, you had to take your temperature, right? Everywhere you go, you had to take your temperature. But mine was
Yeah.
always like 96 or something like that. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that should have been like a huge red flag to me.
Yes.
And every time
Yeah.
I go to the doctor, they'd be like, "Hey, are you alive?" Like my blood pressure
Yes.
would be low, my pulse would be low, like
Exactly.
everything would always run low. And I'm like, "Well, I'm a runner. I'm super athletic. I did run a lot." So I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so it's really good that I have a low resting heart rate. Like that's an
I
excellent
know.
thing."
Right.
So I'm like, but maybe not. Then my thyroid was tanking, and
Yes.
it was just so
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
So then I quit my job for, over a year and I healed my to heal my thyroid. That's how tired I was. That's literally how tired I was. And I was like, literally we thought about do we have to get rid of the animals because I'm so tired.
Oh,
And
wow.
and um and so then I was on this went on this whole thyroid healing and of course had all my family test their thyroid and then started working with them and I was like you guys are my best guinea pigs. Thank you. You guys are amazing. But it turns out everyone in my family had low thyroid, which is very much a
Genetic predisposition.
exactly. Yes, very strong. And we have like my aunt, she'll never listen to this podcast and I love her. She's like my biggest, like I love her so much, but she weighs like 400 pounds.
Hmm.
And she's never been able to lose weight and she tries so hard and I love her so much. And it's just like you look
Hmm.
at her and you feel so bad.
Hmm.
And so I was like, this, and she's on Synthroid, which we can talk about that if you guys have time and want.
Yeah.
Um, but and then my dad, he weighs like 350 pounds and they eat, but they don't overeat. And you assume fat people eat too much.
Hmm.
They usually don't. They usually don't eat enough to look like that, you know?
Right.
And so then I started to like really look into this and women who are severely hypothyroid and have like are overweight, they have to eat 700 calories or less to not gain weight, and that is not normal.
No.
That is that's not okay. That's serious hypothyroidism.
Very.
So,
That's a
so
really bad way to live.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I started to, and I realized that low carb was absolutely destroyed my thyroid because if you don't have enough glucose, your body will start producing adrenaline and cortisol and going into gluconeogenesis as a way to, it'll make glucose on its own. It'll figure out a way. But then
Mhm.
your muscles are depleted and your bones are depleted and your brain is depleted and your cells are depleted. And if you have too many stress hormones in the system, your body won't make thyroid hormone.
No.
It'll revert to survival versus making your thyroid hormone. And
Hmm.
so that was very eye-opening to see that carb restriction was actually keeping me in fight or flight, hitting my thyroid. Um,
And even the fasting, even the overnight fasting it
Even
can
the
be
overnight
enough. Even
fasting.
the overnight fasting can just be too much. Like I used to, when I used to fast, I would be like, because I did all this, right? I did all the low carb, I did all the
Yeah,
fasting, I did all the things, right, that you're claiming, and I made myself worse. My body needed
yeah,
nourishment and safety, not more restriction. I say it all
yeah,
the time.
yeah,
And I would do these fasts and I would like, I'm just gonna eat breakfast and I'll go to the next day breakfast, right? Because that's an okay fast, right? Like that's a healthy
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
And I'd be like freezing by the end of the day. And I'm like
Yes,
literally
yes,
shivering,
yes,
shivering like that cold. And I'd just go to sleep and I'd sleep. I'm
yes.
like, that is not health.
I'm amazed you could. I'm
It's
Vanessa. I'm amazed you could sleep at all.
No, I
well,
slept great, which was odd. I would sleep great because there was nothing that was irritating my system, I guess. I would sleep good, but I was freezing. Like and I would
yeah.
like literally would shiver. And I was like, that is not a good sign. Like that's a sign that you should not fast.
It is a sign of that, and when you get that cold and shivery, it's a sign that you've used up your liver
Oh,
glycogen. And
absolutely.
when you use up, you see when you eat sugar, like if you ate glucose from like say oatmeal or brown rice or whatever, something like that, the glucose supplies your muscles. Okay, it gives mainly gives your muscles glucose to like, okay, I can move around, exercise, this sort of thing. When you do something that combines the fructose with the glucose, like a piece of like fruit, you restore your liver glycogen stores, and the liver glycogen is what feeds your tissues, feeds your brain, feeds all of your organs when you start to get low in glucose. And the time of day we do this is during sleep.
Hmm.
So by doing all of this and resetting your thermostat, your thyroid, as I started to do this, it takes time and your body can take time to adapt. And like as soon as you start replenishing your liver glycogen stores, if you've been low carb for so long, you will have it'll use it up just like this. I literally had to eat carbs like every hour.
Hmm.
To eat carbs before bed, to restore, because if not, I'd crash. I'd get chilled, crash, etc. And it's really it takes the body time to recover, especially if you've done it for a long time and especially if you've been more hardcore.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, the
I've heard
more you
about
reach,
people who do this as well, Heather. And then there's some people who say, well, you have to gain weight in order to get healthier and have that abundance and turn off the starvation signals or whatever. Do you
that's a
think
good
that's
point.
a normal thing, or do you think that's not needed?
I think that it can happen. I have seen
Mm.
it happen, but because your body's thermostat literally doesn't know how it literally is trying to find its way again. So some of the most common things are you can get cold or chilled easily if you're because your liver glycogen will just be used up immediately. You can have trouble sleeping. You can be really fatigued during this time. You can eat. I lost weight, but I have had clients who've gained a little weight, but then they've rebalanced.
Right.
So it depends on the person, but your thermostat will try to find its way, and a good 6 weeks for it to rebalance after once you start your low carb recovery. And also once you start, if you try to heal your thyroid and recover low carb at the same time, which I did, maybe start with one instead of the other because
I was like, just do it all at the same time.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't know until I got into it because nobody tells you about this. Nobody's talking about this. Everybody's just like eat more meat and
Fast more, cold
fast.
plunge,
Oh
eat
my,
more meat, eat less carbs. You're just a rest. That's like the recipe for a disaster for a woman. Like it
it,
really is.
it is. It is.
It's so bad.
All these women on carnivore, they're either going to start gaining weight and not sleeping, or they're going to start losing weight and getting osteoporosis and bone issues. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, you can't get
it's
enough calcium from meat, I'm assuming.
let's talk about that
Okay.
because meat is high in phosphate. Meat is very high in
Yeah,
phosphate, which we need.
phosphorus. Yeah.
Too much phosphate in the diet blocks calcium. So
Mhm.
this is also why people on the like carnivore diets, they're super deficient in calcium because they're blocking the body from even absorbing what they are eating.
That's
So
crazy.
yes, this is why I'm a proponent of the more the 50-50 approach because of iron overload, but also because of the phosphate, calcium. There's a very precarious balance in the body, and it's you can overdo it so easy with carnivore and all the flesh, and then we're told all these inflammatory things and nonsense about dairy and so forth. So a
Yeah.
lot of people,
Carnivore was like my biggest mistake. I wish I would have never have done that. It's like the
I
worst.
hear you.
I lost my period for 6 months from that. That was literally
Ooh,
from my body being so stressed. That's a
yeah,
huge red flag, like that your
it is.
body is under a lot of stress. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Hmm.
like it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're recovering well from
Thank
that.
you. I'm in recovery and it's going well.
You must be feeling so much better because you're talking about getting more animals.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. She's like,
That's
all right,
always
now we can have the sheep. I have my energy back.
that's always a sign that I'm feeling better.
Well, we're glad. We're glad for you that you figured that out, and then you get to share it with other people, and they can reap the benefit of that too. And I think
Yeah.
it's an important conversation for us to be having, especially with the pushes, like I said, for the low carb, the carnivore, these spaces,
Yeah.
and the restricting more. And I
Yeah.
think women especially suffer, and women especially are more sensitive, and women especially need more safety and nourishment. And that's been a huge learning lesson for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
100%. And if you really are curious about your thyroid, just for you, if you want to test your TSH, go for it. But it's not an accurate measure. It's just going to measure how your pituitary is communicating with your thyroid. And if that test's low, that's like a, a big red flag. But most people who have hypothyroid test within their normal range.
Hmm.
And they
I get
still have all of these symptoms, cold hands and feet, constipation, insomnia, weight issues being they can't gain weight or they can't lose weight. There are so many of our symptoms, and even like anxiety and neuroses, these can really be tied into the thyroid. So
Did eating
test,
more carbs lower your anxiety? I'm just curious.
eating, yeah, it
Yeah.
did because I stabilized my freaking blood sugar and got my thyroid working better.
Yep.
It was
I could see that correlation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, big time.
Hmm.
Um, so I would test your thyroid at home, and I just later today it's going be published on my podcast, Eat Heal Farm, walking you through how to test your thyroid at home. It'll cost you like $12 to $20, which is the cost of a thermometer.
Yeah, yeah. It's not that tough. Yeah. It's good. And I think it's good for us to know. And I think it's good to know how you're responding to meals as well, which is I thought
Exactly.
was really insightful, when you do
Exactly.
that kind of testing, like, oh, okay, so when I eat, my basal metabolic rate actually goes up. That's a good thing. You should
Yes, it
probably
should.
eat.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
And you should eat. Yeah.
Yes. And your temperature should be in a certain range when you wake up, and then you test it around noon and 1, and it should be a little bit higher around that time. And we should see this pattern. Um,
Mm.
and so this reflects how the body temperature, the warmer you are, the faster your metabolism, the colder you are, the slower your metabolism. It's such a simple test.
Yep.
They all know, the doctors know about it, but they can't make any money from it. And then they're like, well, our patients are going to have too much power. They're going to be self-diagnosing.
Oh, that's so frustrating. Isn't that what we want for our people to be empowered and to know what to
Yeah,
do? And oh, God, it's
exactly.
so
Yeah.
frustrating.
So they literally, for the past like 3 to 5 years, have been publishing in their journals to they're being threatened to not go off of physiological symptoms for considering someone hypothyroid and to just focus on the TSH test. And they're literally being threatened in their journals about this. It's like so insane.
Is insane. And so many women, I will just to validate like their own experience. Like I know when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I didn't get that diagnosis till I went to a functional medicine doctor. And that's because they did a full thyroid panel and they actually saw, oh, you have, antibodies and whatnot. But I had gone to 3 endocrinologists previous to that. And I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of functional medicine, right? But I went to 3 endocrinologists previously to that. And they're like, oh, your thyroid's fine. Your thyroid's fine. But every test showed low T3, which I had to ask them to actually run. And I was like, that's not fine. There's something wrong. And I had all these symptoms of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. And they were like, well, you might have antibodies. However,
Yeah.
even though you have antibodies, your thyroid is still functioning. So there's basically nothing we could do. Okay, well then how is that helpful to me?
So
And we all
yeah.
know here sitting us three, we know they have no good solutions for you anyway. Like there's
They
no
don't.
help really from them.
Uh-uh.
So but it's such a sad story. And I feel like so many women go through that and it
Yeah.
sucks. It really sucks to go to those office visits and think you're going to get some help. And
Yeah.
then you leave there and you're like, well, what do you mean you can't do anything? Like, it just sucks. It sucks.
Yeah. And so many people have sluggish thyroid
Yeah.
and if you do that test and repeat it for 5 to 7 days, you will have an accurate idea of how your thyroid is functioning.
Yeah.
And then you can get whatever help you need. But again, they don't test for T3 and
Mhm.
they only test for T4, which is the storage form of thyroid.
Right. Not the
T3
active.
is the active form. And so plenty of people can have enough T4. And this is why they don't test for hypothyroid because they're just testing T4. But your ability for your thyroid to function is how that is converted into active T3. And they don't test for that because they know that and they just want to give Synthroid. And Synthroid, what is it? It's T fucking
Four.
four.
It's four. Yes, no three. Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so then, like, let's say you replenish your T4 stores, and this is why people like my aunt they haven't lost weight. She's been on Synthroid for literally 30 years, 20 years, something like that. She's gained weight because she's not making the conversion to T3. And so
Yeah.
then when you have too much T4, you'll also then start making reverse T3
Yeah.
if you can't convert to T3. So it's like these people create so many effing problems and people feel so bad about themselves like they're hopeless and they can't recover and what's wrong with me and what are we told? Eat less, move more. What
Right.
a
And that's going to
fucking
make your
shit.
thyroid worse because you're
Worse.
going to slow down your metabolic rate. Man,
Honestly,
it is so effed up.
it's so backwards. So,
It's so effed up. Oh my God.
yeah.
So how
Yeah.
are you helping people now with this, Heather?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm helping people recover from low carb. That's one thing I'm helping doing because you likely, if you've been hardcore, need some help because you shot your thyroid, but also we need to see what's actually happened for you, you know. But also hypothyroidism is a big focus in my practice now. I'm focusing mainly on nutrition and then adding in homeopathy and thyroid inputs when necessary
Mm.
and doing it very, very slow because somebody could have a hypothyroid due to not enough T3. Somebody else could be low in progesterone. Somebody else could literally not have enough T4 or T3, and all of those will take a different approach. So that's a big focus of my practice right now. I'm not seeing much like homeopathy general patients. It's more so nutrition for hypothyroid and low carb recovery and blood sugar recovery, which a lot of people are diagnosed with diabetes but have never had their insulin tested.
Mm.
It's so stupid.
Does that make any sense? I can't.
And so a lot of people actually aren't diabetic. They just and so they're being given insulin and Ozempic and all
That's what
these
I was going to
things.
say. They're just going to shuttle them
Yeah.
to the newer generation GLP-3, which
Yeah,
is supposed to fix
exactly.
those things. But you're saying that if you don't do like a comprehensive holistic nutritional approach,
Yeah.
just trying to force the body and tweak it into shifting these pathways is going to be not detrimental, or what do you think?
Yes, very detrimental. And then they're told to eat complex carbohydrates and not eat any like fruit or sucrose. And if you look at studies like done in the 30s and 40s, diabetics would go to these doctors in England and they had diabetes. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to feed you the standard diet of like meat and um but we're also gonna you can eat as much fruit and as much sucrose as you want, like go to town.
Mm.
But you can't have complex carbs. And they
Hmm.
literally all of them healed. All of these people were gonna die from insulin resistance.
Wow.
They freaking walked out cured, and then all of that stuff was just erased from the
Buried.
medical literature, just buried. Like, and now
I
we're
also
told,
heard a study too, though, about people who had diabetes who just ate rice and also healed. I
Walter
also
Kempner diet.
thank you. I was like, that's an interesting theory. Like, I've never heard of that before. So I'm like, there's so many ways we could go about this. I guess it's just so interesting. But yeah, all these things get buried, right? Of course, and they just want to put you on the drugs.
all of it get buried. They focus on the drugs. And I think maybe another like really big scam is the HbA1c, which is actually a measurement of PUFAs in your bloodstream and not
Really? Wow.
sugar. Yes.
Whoa, that's
And
crazy.
and so when people decrease their PUFAs, the HbA1c goes down. This is why people take carbs out and then their HbA1c is like, yeah, it's kind of the same, or sometimes it goes up. And you take
Mm,
out the PUFAs and boom, it totally is a I can't tell you how many times I've seen that after people do
that's
the PUFA
crazy.
detox. Yeah, it's insane.
Hmm.
And
I agree.
So
yeah.
that's the other offering you have is how to detox PUFAs? Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's
Mhm.
like a little master class, okay?
Mm,
And if you're somebody who you've like done a lot of corn, soy, or animals who've eaten that, or flax, or chia, or hemp, or or it's or eat out a lot at restaurants,
yeah.
can be a really good way to start resetting your metabolism and thyroid. It's a good
Yeah.
first step.
I
Yeah.
wonder if I have that seed oil scout app, right? And it's like
Oh
lets you
yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually is good to find like good restaurants sometimes. Like when we travel, I'm like, oh, this is actually like a healthy restaurant. But then you got to be careful. Like you still gotta, you can't do that all the time, But you'd also want to not be perfectionistic and dogmatic and like enjoy life too. You gotta do both.
Exactly. And then you can learn how to detox your cells of it and what to do for a few days after you've gone to a restaurant. Like, there you
Yeah,
go.
that's a
And
good way. Good strategy. I
and
love
be
that.
empowered. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, empowered. Exactly. Well, this has been so fun, Heather. Anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention? Like anything we missed?
Um, gosh, I would I don't I think that was pretty solid.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it was great. We had a good time chatting. It was so fun. We learned
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
So
I
where can
guess
Well,
people find you? Oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead.
uh,
Yes, I was going to say same thing. Go ahead.
I guess the last thing I would mention is the effects of the PUFAs on estrogen.
Hmm.
Because it's estrogenic and it acts just like estrogen. And so a lot of
That's
people
why
who
we have a lot of man boobs.
exactly a lot of people with estrogen dominant symptoms, the liver isn't metabolizing it because the liver will get rid of it, that it'll sulfate it and take it out via the urine or in the bile and
Mhm.
out the stool. But when we have too much, it doesn't go through that detox process. So if you're somebody who has estrogen issues, and estrogen will shut off the thyroid also. And we don't really need that much. Anyone like hormone replacement and they tell you you need the estrogens, walk out and fucking find a different doctor.
Yeah, and some people don't detox estrogen very well, so that is another issue.
It
Like if
is.
you're, depends on how well your liver is working, first of all, like you just mentioned. So that's another issue to think about as well. So I don't know.
Yeah. You have to think about your liver and you have to think about your thyroid. And the easiest way to start that recovery is to reduce your PUFA intake.
Hmm. I love that.
It's one of the most, and I'm mentioning that because it's so connected to what we've talked about today and the thyroid, and many women struggle with it. And estrogen dominance is kind of a misconception because it's just that your estrogen metabolism is low.
Yeah. Mm.
We don't need that much estrogen, really. And so when somebody writes you a script for the three types of estrogen in the hormone replacement, I would fucking walk out. That then you're literally taking the thing causing all of these issues, and it's just part of their hormone replacement like protocol. And usually hormone replacement, what needs to be looked at is your thyroid and your progesterone, and that's often what needs to be looked at. And you can
Yeah.
start that with all the stuff we talked about today.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. So where can people find you?
Well, I don't know. They can find me on my farm because I don't leave too often because I love it here. Um, let's see. They can find me on eathealfarm.com, and they can find me on my Eat Heal Farm Substack. And I'm horrific at Instagram, but sometimes I make it there and post on Eat Heal Farm, but honestly, I don't really. Um,
You're not missing much. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you really are not. I wouldn't stress.
uh,
And you have your
yeah,
Substacks.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, my Eat Heal Farm Substack. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
good. Okay,
Oh,
awesome. Okay,
yeah.
well,
So much, Heather. It was delightful as usual and keeping it
Uh-huh.
real and
always. I love
so,
that.
so much
Yeah.
knowledge and experience and a big smile. We love it.
Aw, thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah,
Y'all are
thanks,
great.
Heather. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really fun.
yeah.